The first episode opens with young Lejla buying cigarettes and candy at a local store. When the shopkeeper asks about her mom, she says she's at work. Lejla heads home, finds the door unlocked, and calls out, but no one answers. Suddenly, someone grabs her from behind. She wakes up in a dim glass cell, banging and begging to get out. Years later, Lejla is now a resident lecturer researching child predator psychology. During a lecture, she explains how such predators share a twisted view of power and control. Soon after, she receives a call. Anne-Marie, her mother, has died. She books a flight home. Back in her home country, she finds her father Walter working at his craft desk. He offers her coffee and bread. As she walks around, she spots old files from her abduction case and has a flashback. Walter admits he's never been able to let go, especially since her abductor was never caught. He oddly admits to listening to Joe Rogan, and girl gives him the side eye. Later they go fishing, and he mentions the river will be drained for a mining project. That night, Lejla has another flashback while looking in the mirror. Walter gives her a box of things Anne-Marie kept and asks her to deliver a eulogy the next day. She agrees. As she sorts through the box, she finds old news articles. Later in her sleep, she has a nightmare. She's grabbed by her abductor again, this time as an adult. The next morning, she picks up pastries in town. An old friend recognizes her and joins her, until another man calls from the street and sings "Girl in a Box," an old chant used to mock her. She shrugs it off and smiles to be polite. I would have slapped that orange-haired fugly man. On the way to the funeral, she sees a mining sign and workers setting charges. A man hands her a protest flyer. At home, Walter complains about the funeral flowers. The service begins with accordion music and mourners gathering. A couple argues. The woman storms off and the man follows. Through the window, Lejla sees the woman, Louise, an old friend, who waves. They catch up in a side room. Louise vents about returning home and the hostility over the mine. Her daughter Alicia suddenly appears, wondering if Louise is ruining her lungs again. Louise lies, saying they're fake cigarettes, but Alicia ain't dumb. Then Louise invites Lejla to go to her house before she leaves for America. Lejla agrees. As Lejla arrives home, she finds Walter and Thomas asleep in the living room. Oh, is her father a power bottom? She quietly heads to her room. Later, her father joins her, sitting on the bed. With tears in his eyes, he admits feeling guilty for possibly coming between her and Anne-Marie. Lejla reassures him. She needed him as her dad. The next day, Lejla prepares to leave. Walter sees her off. She drives to Louise's house. When no one answers the doorbell, she tries the door. It's unlocked. Loud music is blaring inside. She searches the house, opens the bathroom door, and finds Louise in the tub, covered in blood, a deep slit on her wrist. Panicked, she pulls her out, calls for help, and shuts off the breaker. She calls Walter for assistance. Walter arrives with the police. They wait by the cars as officers investigate inside. Louise's mother, Christina, shows up and breaks down in grief. Walter embraces her for comfort. Lejla checks Louise's car for Alicia, but she's not there. Alarmed, Lejla rushes back into the house, yelling Alicia's name from the balcony. A search party forms near the river, scouring the area until nightfall with no sign of Alicia. Meanwhile, the police receive a call from a volunteer reporting a possible lead. Officers Bjorn and Thomas are dispatched. Walter returns to Louise's house, and policewoman Johan lets him in. She says they suspect Alicia discovered her mother's body and ran off. At the mine entrance, Thomas calls to report they found something, instructing officers to block off the area and begin treating it as a crime scene. Back at the river, Lejla speaks with Saeed, Alicia's father. He shares his fear. If a child isn't found within 48 hours, chances of survival drop significantly. The police arrive and ask Saeed to come with them. Saeed can't afford though. He resists, demanding answers, but Thomas threatens to use force. Saeed leaves reluctantly. Lejla tries to get information, but Thomas brushes her off. She drives home and calls Walter, who tells her the police found Alicia's clothes near the mine. The news triggers a PTSD flashback. Lejla pulls over and suffers a panic attack, with continued search efforts for Alicia. Oddly, dead ducks are found along the riverbank. At the station, missing flyers are printed and distributed. Outside, Walter discovers more dead birds on the snow. Meanwhile, Lejla wakes from another nightmare and takes her medication. When Walter walks in, she asks if he entered her room through the window. It was left open. He says he didn't, then shows her the dead birds he found. Lejla decides not to leave yet. She wants to stay and help with the search. She asks Walter to accompany her to the site where Alicia's clothes were found so the officers will allow her access. At the police station, Christina confronts Thomas, demanding an explanation for Saeed's detainment. She insists on taking him home, but Thomas refuses and advises her to leave. Defiant, Christina declares she'll sit her ass here. Meanwhile, in his office, Thomas receives a report from his secretary regarding the increasing number of bird deaths across the area. She asks who should handle it. Thomas sets it aside for now and proceeds to question Saeed. He starts by asking about Saeed's relationship with Louise. Saeed insists things were fine and seems confused by the questioning. Tomas then presents a document. Louise had filed for divorce. Saeed explains it away, claiming she was just unhappy living there and had talked about moving back to the city, implying the divorce filing was just an emotional reaction. Tomas grows more suspicious and informs him that the house is now being treated as a crime scene. At the mine entrance, Legla and Walter arrive. Bjorn is on site along with 2 hazmat-suited personnel. Legla crosses the cordon without hesitation. Bjorn is too surprised to stop her, but Walter reassures him he'll keep watch. As they examine the site, Legla sees Alicia's dress and recalls her wearing it during the memorial. She believes the abductor is sending a clear message. They are in control. Later, Legla and Walter visit Christina at her home. During their conversation, Legla asks if anyone outside the family had recently shown Alicia particular attention. Christina's housemaid, who is big-backed, mentions the builder. He and Alicia had grown quite close, and he had even been filming videos of her on his phone. This gives PDF file vibes to Legla and Walter, so they pay him a visit. At the builder's cabin, they confront him about the videos. He explains that Alicia had been exchanging video clips with his own daughter, who was also 10. In one of the clips, Legla spots a man outside near Louise's car. When asked, the builder identifies him as Louise's lover. Oh, he's spilling the tea. Thomas holds a press conference on the ongoing investigation. A reporter presses him about a possible connection between Alicia's case and Legla's abduction 22 years ago, but he firmly denies any link. Layla and Walter arrive at the station to share their findings, but Thomas is visibly irritated and warns them not to conduct their own investigation. Walter insists that the information is relevant, regardless of who uncovered it. Tomas then reveals new forensic results. Louise was drugged before being killed, her wrists deliberately lacerated. With the divorce filing and possible affair, he says, Saeed now has a stronger motive. Later, Legla and Walter stop by a restaurant. Troubled by the thought that Saeed might be responsible, Legla gets up to grab a coffee to go. At the counter, she meets Martin, a local man who shows an unsettling interest in both her past abduction and the recent case. Back at the station, Thomas and Johan enter Saeed's cell. They inform him that he's now formally detained on suspicion of Louise's murder and Alicia's disappearance. When Johan begins to restrain him, Saeed panics and shoves Thomas, who responds by pinning him to the ground. Johan quickly intervenes, calming the situation before escorting Saeed to the police car. They drive off into the night. At home, Legla experiences flashbacks of Louise and Alicia. She takes her medication but suffers a minor episode. Walter arrives and informs her of Louise's upcoming memorial service. At the memorial, Legla walks in as guests quietly murmur about Saeed's recent arrest. Upon seeing Louise's photo, she becomes visibly distressed and walks out. Outside, more flashbacks hit her. She finds herself at the location where she was discovered following her abduction. Later at home, Legla reviews old video interviews from her case. In one, her younger self describes her captivity as being inside a fish tank in a dark room. Through her drawings, she indicates that 3 other children had come before her. She names her abductor as Eki. Tomas arrives shortly after to speak with her. Walter also arrives soon after. Tomas admits that he was the one with Louise in the video clip and recounts how their relationship began. Walter reacts strongly, pressing him on how this could relate to Louise's death. He urges Thomas to report it to the authorities and threatens to do so himself if Thomas doesn't. Thomas insists he will take care of it, but Walter disagrees and leaves angrily. Tomas, now alone with Legla, pours a drink and asks about her mushroom intake. Legla questions whether anyone else knew about the affair. Tomas denies it. Just then, the town's alarm sirens sound off. Christina at home receives a message. A video plays, showing Alicia unconscious on the floor. Later, Legla dreams of Louise, Alicia, and her mother. A flashback shows young Legla writing a letter and tucking her hair scrunchie inside before placing it in a package slot. She bangs on the door, waiting for Eki to collect it, but gets no response. In the morning, Walter informs her that the previous night's alarms were triggered by a wastewater leak from the mine. At the station, Bjorn and Saeed arrive. Tomas meets with Saeed and presents phone records confirming that Saeed was in Stockholm during Louise's death, clearing him as a suspect. He apologizes for the detainment and shows Saeed the video clip received by Christina, now verified as the same video sent to the police from an encrypted, untraceable server. Saeed becomes distraught, and Joran asks him whether anyone might have a motive against him. Tomas suggests that both the murder and Alicia's disappearance could be connected to the mine and possibly driven by revenge. At church, the community gathers for a public statement from Christina. Walter privately informs Legla about the Alicia footage. Christina addresses the crowd about the wastewater incident, but the gathering quickly becomes confrontational. Taga, a protest leader, challenges her, accusing Vanadin of negligence. His son Jim adds fuel to the tension. Walter steps in to prevent escalation. Christina then announces a temporary halt to Vanadin's mining operations. Christina walks home, followed closely by Legla and Walter. They find Saeed waiting for them. Christina greets him, and Saeed immediately expresses his frustration over the public's reaction and questions the direction of Thomas's investigation. He begins asking Legla about the likelihood of child sexual exploitation in abduction cases. Legla explains that it depends on the abductor's motive. A sudden thud interrupts the conversation as something hits the window. Saeed goes outside and finds another dead bird on the ground. Legla follows. Saeed lights a cigarette and voices his suspicions that a protester might be involved. He asks further about Lesla's own abduction, and she tells him she never saw the face of her captor. He then asks if she's content with not knowing the full truth. He stands in silence for a moment before expressing his resolve to find and punish whoever is behind Alicia's disappearance. Saeed obsessively replays Alicia's video at work. Christina arrives and tries to discuss Louise's funeral, but Saeed, overwhelmed, snaps and storms off. She reminds him she's grieving too, and he apologizes. At dinner, Legla tells Walter about a dream involving her mother. They discuss her suicide and Lesla's memory loss from trauma. Frustrated, Legla asks for copies of her mom's interviews and listens to them alone. Saeed cleans Alicia's room and finds Louise's robe and a book with an intimate note. Panicked, he searches for more clues. Outside, he's attacked by masked protesters demanding he shut down the mine. Legla and Walter rush Saeed to the station. He asks Legla if she knew about Louise's affair. She doesn't. Aino tells Legla that Adi is missing. He recently came home with a lot of cash and left after the community meeting to meet Jim. She suspects he's hiding at his father's cabin. At the station, Saeed reports Jim as one of his attackers. He also shows the book with the note. Thomas keeps it and orders Jim's arrest. Walter watches Isla while Legla and Aino head for the cabin. They find Ada passed out. He admits to sabotaging a pipe for 35,000 krona, paid via anonymous email. They bring him to the station. Police learn the same encrypted server was used to contact Adi and send Alicia's video. No identity traceable. Back at Lesla's, Isla is drawing in her room. Legla finds a disturbing drawing of a girl in a glass cell. Isla says a man named Eki climbed in through the window and drew it. Legla looks out into the night, shaken. What do you guys think of this one? This was just the first 3 episodes of the popular Netflix series. Should we cover the rest?
Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like. It really helps the channel.